Larry Dwayne Hall is an American, born in Wabash, Indiana, on December 11, 1962. The FBI suspects that Larry Hall's killing spree began in the early 1980s. Over the next decade, several female bodies, some of them young and unidentified, were found and later linked to Hall due to the similar manner of their deaths: strangulation and sexual mutilation. Hall first drew police attention in November 1993, following the discovery of the remains of a 15-year-old girl. He was subsequently convicted of her kidnapping. During his interrogation, Hall confessed to this crime and an additional murder, only to retract these confessions later. Since his arrest, Hall has admitted to over 35 murders, but has recanted each of these confessions. Despite this, authorities believe he may be responsible for the deaths and disappearances of between 40 and 50 young women. Initially, the FBI compiled a list of cases potentially connected to Hall, but none of these links have been conclusively proven. On June 28, 1982, 19-year-old Naomi Lee Kidder departed from Buffalo, Wyoming, with a group of friends headed to Rawlins, Wyoming. They spent the night at the Travel Lodge Hotel, and on June 29, 1982, Kidder decided to go hitchhiking, marking the last time she was seen alive. Her nude body was discovered in Natrona County on September 10, 1982, in a partially dug grave. She was identified on March 10, 1993, using dental records, and her cause of death was determined to be ligature strangulation. Hall is considered a suspect in her murder because a document with Kidder's name was found in his possession after his arrest. On September 6, 1986, the body of a young woman was found in a cornfield near Summerfield, Illinois, nude, strangled, and sexually mutilated, just a day after her death. The unidentified victim was referred to as the Summerfield Jane Doe and was buried in Mount Hope Cemetery with a gravestone reading, "Jane Doe, known only to God." In 2007, the woman was identified as 26-year-old Eulalia Amelia Lolly Chavez through fingerprints from an arrest record. Hall became a suspect after confessing to Chavez's murder in a letter to a St. Louis television reporter. However, DNA evidence collected from the crime scene did not conclusively match Hall's DNA. On February 24, 1987, 10-year-old Linda Lynn Weldy vanished after being dropped off by her school bus near her home on McClung Road in LaPorte, Indiana, around 3:30 p.m. Her body was discovered 3 weeks later, on March 17th, along an abandoned railroad track on County Road 500 South near Kingsbury, approximately 9 miles from where she was last seen. The autopsy revealed she had been manually strangled. Investigators noted that Larry Hall, a suspected serial killer, was in the area at the time of her disappearance. In a separate incident, on June 4, 1987, 16-year-old Wendy Louise Felton disappeared from her home in Marion, Indiana, around 2 p.m. Her sister found her missing upon returning home at about 5 p.m., with all of Felton's belongings still in her bedroom. Felton's home was less than 25 miles from Wabash, where Hall resided and frequently visited a reenactment site. Detectives have not ruled out Hall as a suspect in this case. On September 2, 1988, 19-year-old Paulette Sue Webster was last seen walking home from a friend's house in Chester, Illinois, at 11 p.m. Initially, authorities believed she might have left voluntarily, but foul play is now suspected. In 2011, Larry Hall sent a letter to author Christopher Hawley Martin, claiming responsibility for Webster's murder. Hall described taking Paulette from a main road near a mobile home park, sexually assaulting her, and then either throwing her into the Mississippi River or burying her in a field. He wrote, "If I did it, I would have put her in a river or in a field." On July 1, 1991, Michelle Lee Dewey, a 20-year-old single mother, was discovered strangled in her second-floor apartment on South Downey Avenue in the Irvington section of Indianapolis. Her 18-month-old son, who was in a back bedroom with the door wedged shut, remained unharmed. According to Hall's twin brother, Gary, Hall had confessed to Dewey's murder. Hall had been in Indianapolis that day, having traveled there after seeing an advertisement for a 1982 Dodge van. Authorities believe that Hall might have seen Dewey sunbathing in the backyard. On August 19, 1992, Lori Jean DePease, 22 years old, was last seen entering her gray 1984 Volkswagen at the Fox River Mall in Grand Chute, Wisconsin, around 10 p.m. She is believed to have arrived at her boyfriend's apartment complex on West Wilson Avenue in Menasha between 10:15 and 10:30 p.m. However, when she failed to enter the apartment, her boyfriend, along with his sister and a friend, searched for her and found her locked car in the parking lot. The car had a styrofoam soda cup on the hood, and DePie's purse and overnight bag were still inside. In 2010, Hall, who was initially identified as a suspect in DePie's disappearance in 1995, admitted to abducting and killing her. Despite Hall's claims of where he buried DePie's, investigators were unable to find her body or any concrete evidence to support his statement. On March 29, 1993, at approximately 8 p.m., 19-year-old Tricia Lynn Reitler was last seen at Indiana Wesleyan University in Marion, Indiana. She had walked to the nearby Marsh supermarket, about half a mile from the campus, to purchase a soda and a magazine before heading back to her dormitory in Bowman Hall. Authorities suspect she was abducted during her return journey. Between the store and the university, near Siebold Pool and Center Elementary School, Reitler's blood-stained pants, shirt, and shoes were found in a field. Investigators discovered maps, ether, photos, and newspaper articles related to Reitler and Larry Hall's vehicle, along with handwritten messages describing Hall stalking women outside the grocery store where Reitler was last seen. Although Hall initially confessed to Reitler's murder, he later recanted, and no charges were filed against him in connection with her disappearance. Investigators searched an area near the Mississinewa Reservoir in Grant County, guided by Hall's claim that he had buried her body there, but no evidence was found. On September 23, 1993, 15-year-old Jessica Lynn Roach was last seen at around 3:30 p.m. riding her bicycle near her home in Georgetown, Illinois. Her body was discovered on November 8th in a cornfield near Perrysville, Indiana. In early 1994, several teenage girls in Georgetown reported being followed by a man in a van, providing a partial license plate number that led police to Larry Hall. After finding evidence in his van linking him to Roach's disappearance and hearing details that only the perpetrator could have known, Hall confessed to abducting Roach. He was charged with her abduction but not her murder, as the exact location of her killing could not be determined. Hall was arrested at his parents' residence in Wabash in December 1994 and was found guilty in June 1995. In 1998, the FBI approached James Keene, a Chicago businessman serving a 10-year prison sentence for a drug conspiracy charge due to his known affability and charisma. Concerned that Larry Hall might win his appeal against the conviction for the kidnapping of Jessica Roach, the FBI offered to commute and expunge Keene's sentence if he agreed to be transferred to the same maximum security prison as Hall. The goal was for Keene to befriend Hall and obtain the locations of his victims' bodies. Keene accepted the proposal and eventually managed to get Hall to confess to killing Tricia Reitler. Hall also showed Keene a map of the American Midwest marked with red dots and names, indicating his victims. However, Keene faced a setback when he was unable to contact his government handlers or verify his true identity, leading to his placement in solitary confinement for 2 weeks. By the time he was released, the map had been destroyed, and authorities were unable to recover it. Despite this, Hall's appeal was ultimately denied, and Keene was released from his sentence. Although Keene did not succeed in locating the bodies, his primary task was to prevent Hall's appeal from being successful. Hall's original confession had been deemed coerced, but Keene's efforts yielded an independent confession that corroborated the original one without being considered coerced. This new confession, though not publicly disclosed, was crucial in making Hall's appeal less viable. Even though Keene did not obtain the locations of the bodies, he successfully undermined Hall's appeal. During their interactions, Hall revealed specific details about 2 of his victims that were likely not publicly known by the FBI and local authorities. The fact that Hall knew these details strongly suggested that he was indeed the perpetrator. The intriguing aspect here is that the FBI is only aware of the same 2 cases that Jimmy Keene informed them about, which raises questions. Could the FBI have leaked this information to Jimmy to ensure he could undermine Hall's appeal? Additionally, why did Jimmy not reveal details about any other victims? Another startling twist is that the only two cases for which Jimmy and the FBI obtained details are those of Jessica Lynn Roach and Tricia Lynn Reitler. In the case of Jessica Roach, United States v. Hall, 1996, number 95-22994, documents show that Officer Miller took a statement from another individual who confessed to abducting Roach and dumping her body in a cornfield. Regarding Tricia Reitler, habitual offender Tony R. Searcy failed 2 lie detector tests related to her case. Larry Hall is currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole at the Federal Correctional Complex in North Carolina.